best experience as a rugby league player is running out in the Queensland jersey at Suncorp Stadium.
And Hunt goes himself as he can, and he picks up another one. He goes Payne Haas. Oh, look at that.
He is big, he is strong, he can offload.
Here goes for Fido.
But it would have been easier to stop a truck that was coming that way.
Hammer soaks Hammerwide Fido. It's hammer time.
Will now. She gets down low. She'll get it down this time. The victors in Women's State of Origin 2021.
Well, thanks for joining us on a very special finals edition of Queenslander, where my Cowboys, Lockie, continued to do it, remain in premiership contention, defied the odds. That game against the Sharks, what did you make of their performance?
Oh, outstanding. I think 30-22. I worked on the Storm Raiders game, and then I was walking back to my hotel in Sydney on Saturday night, and I ran into an ex-9 employee, and she said, "Oh, I'm here with such and such. Come in and watch." And the atmosphere was great. But at 30-22 down, I thought they were gone. You know, all the Shark supporters in the bar were yahooing, saying we're going to a prelim, and then so to come back from that and win the way they did was, it was a great advertisement for our game. But obviously very exciting for Townsville and the Cowboys.
Yeah, very inspiring for virtually everybody attached to the Cowboys, and I think you could see it too, the message on their faces at full time. They realised that they just achieved something that they've been hunting all season long. They were super impressive with it, and despite being over the moon with their mood, I think they realised that that's one down. They've got to take it in a week-by-week process. But I was actually most excited by the look on the coach's face. I've never seen him so excited. Known him for a little while now, and usually he doesn't say too much. He remains extremely quiet, but he was thrilled. But I guess by the time it comes around to the next training session and prepare for the game, he'll be back as a little bit of a straight-faced character, putting a challenge in front of his players.
Both of you former captains, I think it was 7 minutes to go. They're down by 8. Sharks player gets sin bin, so you've got a scrum against 12 men. They kicked the penalty goal. Would you have gone for the try in that situation, or was it the right thing? In hindsight, it's the right thing to do. What would you have done?
No, I reckon in the modern game, and I've seen it happen now, I would have taken the 2 because it just changes your psyche. You go from thinking you've got to score 2 tries to thinking now I just got to score 1. Yep. So I think getting within striking distance, getting you to 6. If it's an easy kick, I think I would do the same.
Yeah, I agree, Lockie. I thought about it a couple of times, and I thought, well, if they try and play on and they don't get the try, that could take away a little bit from their confidence. They kick the goal, they're within range. They know that they are, but also the opposition know that they're in range. So they create a little bit of nervous damage for the opposition, who are thinking, well, if they score this, we've got to go to golden point time.
Well, I copped it on so many mates group chats because when it happened, I said, wrong decision, and that got screenshotted and sent to me about 1,000 times on Saturday night. So happy to admit, Cowboys, that I was wrong because they got the win. But, Lockie, this almost comes with a double bonus. You get a week off. How beneficial would that be? But the added prize of playing a prelim in Townsville, it's never happened before. They'll be crazy.
Oh, well, we remember when they went to the grand final in 2015, the scenes of people, following airports, buses. It just and look, the first one's always the best one. And I remember the Broncos when they won their first. It was it's always extra special. But the further north you go in this country or in this state, the more they love their rugby league. So you can and remember this stadium that's been built now. It's the first time that's been involved in a finals series. So it's going to be crazy. The scenes, the atmosphere. Like I feel sorry for the team that's got to go up there.
I got a good giggle, actually. I mean, it's not a funny point, but I was listening to some people talking about it, and one bloke said to the other, well, if you were a bank robber or a house robber, you'd go to Townsville when this game was being played. You'd have everybody outdoors. They wouldn't be taking care of their houses. But it certainly is an inspiring moment for North Queensland, and I think that they're feeling pretty good at the moment.
And if they do go on potentially to play the Panthers in the grand final, how much do they need to improve their performance? Or
yeah, look, I think what they'll there's a lot of belief in that team. I think that belief will get even bigger based on what they did the other night at Shark Park. You know, like they went into a hostile environment. Yes, it was only 15,000 people, but it was a hostile environment. They were down, they looked out, but they fought their way back. So I think that, you know, mentally, I think that regardless of who they play in Sydney now, I think that they know that they can hang in there and no matter how good the opposition is and be in the contest and you know, maybe come out on top. So do they need to improve? Look, I think Penrith, given they've got the best game manager in the game in Nathan Cleary, they're going to be extremely hard to beat. But the Cowboys' belief, I think it's there.
Yeah, I agree, Lockie. Anybody that had any doubt about their ability in a big match situation certainly got taught a lesson throughout the course of that game, and I'm sure that they will be feeling plenty of confidence. The self-belief level will have gone through the roof, and they have the understanding now that they are capable of winning the big matches and putting on the big plays when they're absolutely necessary. There was a suggestion that they don't have enough big game players that control the outcome. Well, I think that's been put to bed as well.
Well, they've got to be mindful that, you know, we're talking about them playing the Panthers in the grand final.
I don't want to jinx it. It was one of the questions written down. I don't want to jinx it. I got told to ask
I think you're getting a bit ahead of yourself, right? They've still got to win a game. Yes, they've got an advantage in Townsville. They've still got to put in the effort there and win it. And while you mentioned that they don't, you know, you're probably not the big game player or a lot of big game players like some of the other teams, but to me, and I saw it when the Cowboys players come into Origin, there's just some really good habits there amongst them, you know, and they've obviously been coached like that. So they're just a really good team, really good unit. They do a lot of things really well. So, you know, they get a week off and it's a massive advantage because you'd be able to rest those niggling injuries and refresh playing at home. So, yeah, as I said, I feel sorry for the team going up there next week.
Yeah, the guys, like you mentioned, they all do their job perfectly, and I think Reuben Cotter's the perfect
he's a great example. Yeah.
Just works.
Who's your favourite Cowboy? Because Tom Dearden's up there, Reuben Cotter's up there. Yeah. Who do you reckon?
I got to say, Cotter. I love the way he plays, and I think Lockie and I playing in a position like that, you tend to rely upon players that work their backsides off in a game like that to provide good field position for you to work from. And it's not just their attack, it's the relentless work that he puts in defence. Watching how I love watching him when he gets into a tackle, he gets up straight up off the ground, he's looking for the next tackle to go and do, not I'll go to marker, hopefully I'll be the first marker so the second can chase, he'll go left. So he's one of those players, and I think that all of his team certainly appreciate it.
Very selfish. You're still Kyle Felt?
Still Kyle Felt, yeah. I think Chad Townsend was excellent in that game. He did like a lot of little things off the ball you don't see.
Look, obviously I'm a Bronco and we'll get to them in a minute. But, there is a bet going on that if the Cowboys win the premiership that Gal will eat Gus's jocks. So I'd love to see that.
I think everyone in Queensland would absolutely love to see that.
With a peg on his nose, I think.
But one of the big game performers they have in the team, showcased with that monumental field goal, is Valentine Holmes. How good is it seeing him live up to his big dollar price tag now? Because there was a bit of criticism when he came back from the NRL. Maybe they spent too much money on him. He wasn't living up to expectations. How good is it to see that now?
Well, look, I think throw in the fact that he was brought back to be fullback and then he got shifted from fullback to make way for Drinkwater. Before Drinkwater cemented the fullback, it was Hammer.
Yeah.
You know, and then when Val Holmes went to the centre, I thought, oh, geez, they've paid all this money and they're going to put him in the centres. But I've got to say, like, I'm really impressed with the way he's adapted to the centre and the way that he's owned it. He just wanted to be, a player, probably not his preferred position, but he's made it his own now and he's done extremely well.
Yeah, and playing in one position on the field, Lockie, he only looks after that, whereas your big game players, they're mostly your halves and your hooker and your fullback who can transfer all over the field, play on both sides. But he's been fantastic, and I think his performance, he's probably not just proved it to his teammates how effective he is on the field, but himself, he's risen to another level. And when you get confidence on board a player like that, that does wonderful things for the team's future.
I tell you where he's been really advantageous for the team. It's not just what he does with the football; it's what he does with his boot, goal kicking, and obviously
field goals.
The field goal the other night. Yeah.
So
that's a long ranger. That was a beauty. When he went from there, I thought, oh, he's got to do it basically last tackle. Is he going to put the ball high? And I thought, oh no, he's had a go shot from there. Well, it's looking good. It's looking even better. He's got there, and that's the difference between the good and the great players in pressure situations.
He's got great timing, yeah.
So it was sold he's a centre for the rest of his career, pretty much?
Well, I remember his best football at Origin was left wing, right? And I think everyone was like, can he be a fullback? And I think he's got the skill to be a fullback. But what he's done so well there is his combination with Murray Tuolangi. That left edge, he's got really good skills to get one of the tries the other night.
Just tapped it on.
Like great skill with the hand. Got great vision. Obviously, look, he's the complete player, great defender. Yeah.
I think the man sitting next to you answers that question for you. A lot of people said when Lockie was down here, he was a 5'8", played fullback and thought, oh, is this a little bit of a challenge to him? Went on to master that position, went back to 5'8" and remastered that one. So if you're good enough, you're certainly able to do it 24/7.
You'd have to think he's one of the first players picked in the World Cup squad as well. Are you still a selector for that, Lockie?
I am, so I can't comment on that.
Well, we'd have to say we'd like to think that, Lockie, not just Adam. Yeah.
So when we get to the Broncos, I think you two just take over.
Yeah. Just on the Broncos, now that the dust has settled, it's been a couple of weeks, how heartbreaking is it that they missed the 8?
Yeah, I guess if you didn't watch the season transpire and you just looked at where they'd finished, you'd just go, oh, that's an improvement.
Yeah.
But obviously it's left a bit of a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth the way that it finished, considering after beating Parramatta, was it round 18 or round 19? They were in the top 4 and everyone was expecting them to be a contender. So it was a pretty quick fall from grace for the club, and it's now what do you do about it? Well, I think you just got to look at where it went wrong and how do you prevent that from happening again. But also try and keep the glass half full and look at the positives that came out of the season. So, it's not an easy one to digest given where they were 5 weeks ago, but I still think you've got to remain positive.
Yeah, I listened to a guy give a very interesting summation last week. He said at the Broncos, he said they've done all the structure for the house. They've built everything, put it in great place. It's ready. It's got the roof on. Now all they've got to do is make sure they put the walls on and everything's ready. And that didn't get to take place. So they'd done some enormous work in structure and be able to look extremely good. And I thought that it didn't quite give them the credit that was due. I thought they had a pretty good season, but falling at the wrong time certainly was not part of their plans at the start, I'm sure about.
It's still a pretty young group there, the Broncos, excluding Adam Reynolds. Do you think maybe they got caught ladder watching, Lockie? Like, the perception was this year, if they make the finals, that's great, that's a win. They look at the ladder, think, oh, we're up there, we're going to make the finals, and almost took their eye off the ball.
Yeah, I think that Parramatta game, we talk about it a lot, where they got into the top 4 and everyone thought, oh, they've arrived and they're contenders. I just don't think we handled it that well, and maybe there's a lot of young kids in there that hadn't been in that position or got that admiration or, I guess commentary around them for a while, given where the club had been the previous couple of years. So they didn't manage or handle that, and then maybe the experienced players, they struggled with it a little bit too. I guess you got Kurt Capewell, who's a premiership winner the year before at Penrith. But he was probably, more of the senior figure there now, and Adam Reynolds, who went to a grand final the previous year, just probably felt that, fell into the trap that the rest of the players around them, were experienced enough to just keep going in that direction, but it wasn't the case. And Pat Carrigan's suspension didn't help the cause. And I think once the group lost its confidence, especially after, Les Tigers was the first one, but after the shellacking against the Storm, it just completely shot them.
Yeah, Adam, I think the players are the only ones that know the answer to that question. We go along, we watch them at every single training session, what they put in. After the interviews, it's quite obvious that they're working hard. They're either disappointed after losing the last game, or they're thrilled with their previous performance. Set themselves another challenge for the upcoming week. But at the end of the year, when things don't go wrong, there's one simple word that comes out, and it was failure. A tough year for Brisbane. They showed a lot, I think, that will inspire plenty of people, fans, sponsors, but the only ones that probably need to take an even colder, harder look at that is the coaching staff and the players themselves, and be brutally honest. There were some tough times there. I was thrilled by a lot of their performances. I thought they were great in the way that they performed. You can ask the coach how he will feel. He'll probably say that he feels lukewarm, very happy with some of the performances, but disappointed with their outcome in the long run.
And looking forward to next year, Lockie, their spine. There's a lot of chopping and changing this year in the spine. What do you think it looks like for round one next year? Reece Walsh obviously comes to the club. He's the first choice number one.
Yeah, look, he's been brought back to the club to play fullback. I thought Tamari Martin was outstanding when he came in, and they went on that run, and he was a big part of that. And I think, he probably lost his confidence too at the back end of the year when they fell into a bit of a hole. But Reece is a quality talent, and he'll come back in and play the 1. Obviously, Adam Reynolds will stay there at the 7. There's still a bit of debate about the 9. There is a young kid coming through called Blake Moser, but you've still got Billy Walters and
Corey Pakes.
Pakes,
for mine, Corey Pakes is your number 9 for round 1 next year.
So I think there'll be 2. There may be another one coming to the club, another hooker. But they could...
Cameron Smith out of retirement.
Yeah. But there'll be some competition for the hooker spot. But I think there's high hopes internally for this young kid, Blake Moser, coming through, who unfortunately just sustained a long-term injury at the back end of the year. And then the 6 is still, Ezra Mann there, but he's young, he's still learning. So the 6 is still up for grabs. But I think Ezra's... I think long-term, he's the man there.
Yeah, Corey Pakes, I think I'm pretty much the same as Adam. We talk about it a little bit each week about what went wrong or what was creative for the Broncos, and I see a lot of creativity in his play, certainly shining at the right time of the season and not doing so well at the wrong part. But I guess that pretty much was shared throughout the course of the team. A lot of the guys, the confidence levels seem to be damaged. Were they irreparable? Well, I guess only time will tell that, whether they're able to go out there and produce some better ones next season.
One player who won't be there, Tyson Gamble, heading to the Newcastle Knights. A bit of a furore about his podcast comments, Lockie, about Kevy, Adam Reynolds. He says the players go to Adam Reynolds for advice, almost intimating to a certain degree that he was the one coaching the team. He later retracted and apologised. But what does that say about the insight to the playing group?
Look, I think, Adam's a highly intellectual rugby league player. So I think I think Tyson might have said that, off the cuff, so to speak. But I think, obviously Kevin's the head coach and he still dictates how the team plays, but I think, particularly when you're on the field, you go to probably your senior playmaker to sort of get advice or ask questions about, what do we need to be doing different, or what do we need to be doing better. So I just think it was probably something that was blown a bit out of proportion, that whole thing. And
the media don't do that.
Never.
I think. I'm just trying to think back when I played. I remember when I played with Andrew Johns and Brad Fittler. I'd go and ask them about things about the game. And that's only because I knew how good they were. Yeah. And, it's not that I'm undermining a coach. No. It's just you want to get everything available to you.
Yeah, and throughout the course of the match, Lockie, you don't get an opportunity to say, hang on, fellas, I want to talk about this. You got 5 minutes, I'll just slip over to the coach's bench and ask him. Yeah. You're talking to all the players, and that's part of it. And I agree with Lockie. It was something that was blown out of proportion, made an extra stiff story for the media to jump onto, and I don't see that he did anything wrong whatsoever. He's probably the first one to admit that if he had time over again, probably change it a little bit and ask both of them, which might be a common sense move, but I didn't think there was anything too harsh in it at all.
Now, Kevin Walters off contract at the end of next year. His first 2 seasons failed to make the finals. What's a pass mark next year, Lockie? Is it the expectation the Broncos have to make the finals next year?
Oh, look, I think if you're looking at continual improvement, yeah, we've gone from 14th to 9th, and I think Kevin, everyone internally at the club, players, admin, would be thinking that finals is definitely the target, to play finals. We know that that's what the Broncos are about. It looked likely it was going to happen this year, but, we fell short. So it's not about, making ourselves feel lukewarm that we improve. We do need to look at the areas where we have to get better to play finals football. So the remaining 5 weeks probably highlights that we are still short. Well, we are still short, but we need to work out what do we need to do to improve that so we do play finals football next year.
Yeah, the Broncos have had a long, proud future, and that's it, Lockie. You've got to set yourself a little bit of a target, but I should imagine that if they don't make finals next year, it'll be regarded as an absolute disaster, and massive changes may need to be made in situations like that. They've got to try and just make some sort of adjustment. What that is, I guess only the coach will work that out with the players. And I think that having watched them throughout the course of the season, and Adam, you and I virtually get to every single training session to watch the Broncos, and there were points 2/3 of the way through the season where everybody, the excitement level was at an all-time high, and that was something that I thought really did inspire the players, and everyone was expecting bigger and better things at that stage.
Yeah, if everyone's fully fit, Herbie Farnworth comes back into the team,
he was a big loss.
and then Reece Walsh.
Yeah. Interesting story in the Courier Mail today too, Lockie. See who they named as Broncos Player of the Year, who their Player of the Year is?
Okay, so I haven't seen that. Let me try and have a guess. So the way you've said that, it's not Pat Carrigan.
Pat Carrigan was 3rd.
Okay.
Adam Reynolds was 2nd. I'll give you that one.
So the player, well, jeez. Forward or a back?
A back. Try-scoring whiz.
Ooh.
Corey Oates.
Yeah, Corey Oates,
well done.
according to the Courier Mail.
Yeah,
So
right.
I agree with the Courier Mail today on that one.
Yeah, right. Well done, well done, Corey.
But before we end, we'll head on to the Titans. They seem to be heading in the opposite direction of the Broncos after playing finals last year. Lockie, does Holbrook then next year go in as the coach most under pressure? I hate saying it, but maybe him or Adam O'Brien from the Knights?
Yeah, I think the Titans finished the season with a bit of positivity. They finished quite strong, and look, I know I rate Toby Sexton as a game managing half, but they seem to have gone better under Tanner Boyd at halfback. So it'll be, and then Kieran Foran comes, Sam Verrills comes. So you would think on paper, and given where they'd been, the Titans, that they will improve. But if they don't, then I guess you can only look.
No excuses.
You've got no excuse to look at Justin and go, mate, you've got a better team on paper. We need to be going better. So. Look, he's a good guy, and I think he can coach. It's but it's a results business we're in.
Mm. Yeah, if they don't get there next year into the finals, I'd be I'd be amazed if he was reappointed as coach. But the structure of the team has to be made early and work around that. And they did have some issues with injury or unavailability of the players. But it's just an issue for them of being able to settle on it early and make sure they structure their team around that and stick with it. Things mightn't go wrong every week, but they've certainly got to put out their best performances, with the backbone of that team.
Given, if you've got everyone available, given how they finished the year and how well Brimson played at 6, so does Kieran Foran go to 7? Is that,
I don't know. I think Brimson's probably better at fullback, but then you've got
Jaden Campbell.
Campbell.
Yeah, so it's going to be. I think that's going to be an interesting thing how they play that, because obviously Verrills goes straight to 9, and the way Tanner Boyd played at 7, well, he probably holds his spot. Then you got Brimson. Yeah, look, anyway, it's five going into 4.
Yeah, Tanner Boyd was exciting. He inspired all of those around him, and I think he proved to himself more than anything of what he is capable of. Obviously, didn't get an opportunity, a chance to be able to control the game early, but certainly the latter stages of the season, he was quite impressive.
And a big conundrum for them, how do they get the best out of David Fifita next year? Well,
he plays on the right side there, and I think it's probably having it's getting a combination with his half that knows how to deliver the ball to him when and where, because it's not about just giving the ball to Dave and you do your thing. It is about trying to give him the ball in good positions, where he's got time and space. So I understand what works for David, and then as a halfback, if I'm a half and I'm inside him, I'm like, how do you want the ball? Where do you want the ball and when? Like you tell me, we'll work on that at training and then we'll do that in the games.
Show me any impressive try scorer, Lockie, in a position that he's playing as a wide running receiver, and they'll give a pat on the back every time to the person that's providing that opportunity for them. If they're not in good field position, not in good space, and the pass is not into open spaces allowing that opportunity, there very few chances are provided for him.
And just speaking of the Titans, finally, it's great to see Jamal Fogarty killing it for the Raiders after his departure there in the off-seasons. And you'll see the Raiders in action against the Eels this week. Big weekend of finals action as we count down to that Cowboys final, our last remaining hope here in Queensland for premiership success.